music videos and sports hype reel are very similar. Like it's the same type of energy, and so like you, I like music. I like to just go through YouTube and watch music videos and stuff just for inspiration. I think it's a great place, especially like for visual effects type things.
I do like that analogy, just like the parallel between the two, because they don't necessarily always have to have a story. There's like an old video that really inspired me for a while. It was like a potato salad A$AP Rocky, Tyler the Creator video, and I think just from a visual perspective and editing, there's a lot of things that music videos do to push the bar.
All right, well, welcome to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. Today we got a special guest with us, and as usual, it's Lance and E here, and I'm going to let E introduce our guest.
Yes, we're with Pete Gottschalk from MLB. We met a few years ago. I think I reached out to you to like collab on a video a long time ago, probably I don't know, 5 years or something. And
it's been a while, yeah.
Been connecting ever since. How are you, first of all?
Well, what's up, y'all? Like they said, Pete Gottschalk. I'm a content producer with Major League Baseball. I've worked kind of with DC United and MLS as well, and I started at the University of Georgia as a student intern, just to give some background and whatnot. But I'm doing well. It's like, as y'all know, it's the start of the season for us, and we're just kind of getting into that rhythm and routine and kind of absorbing the storylines that the season gives us. So yeah, man, it's great to be on here with y'all, talking with y'all.
Well, we definitely want to get into the whole preseason, start of the season, your job throughout all that. But let's start, like you said, like you started at Georgia, did a lot of well, I know a bit of the start of your career, but can you take us through how you started and how you got from there to working for Major League Baseball?
Yeah, pretty much. I started making, like, back when I was like 8 years old, I used to make little Lego animations. That's kind of how it started off. They were like, Star Wars and stuff. I'd have like my grandma be a voice actor and like wild stuff like that. And that's kind of what got me into video editing and whatever. And then I went to, like, I kind of just focused on school and whatever, and I played baseball. And then senior year, I kind of bought a camera for no good reason, just to kind of document my life and whatever, and mess around with photo, and made a couple videos, and I really liked the process of everything. I just, like, me and my friends went to a golf course, and like I documented our day. It was a terrible video. But we all start from somewhere, and I realized that I love that process, and I started making stuff for like my high school baseball team the last month or two of the season. One of the parents like shot the games, and I would use his footage. And then from there, I basically had something to show like people at University of Georgia, at Georgia Bulldog Sports Marketing, and they wanted someone who was like, a freshman that they could kind of train and rely upon for the next 4 years as an intern to help out, just because there's so many sports. So when I got there, I was basically making content for all sports, filming content for all sports, making, social videos. And at the time, like, social was very new. Like that high like quality content in like 2016 was just kind of starting, in all honesty. And Instagram just introduced video and whatever. So there was a big demand starting to roll for all of these sports, and that's kind of how I got my start there. And we also did like video board videos, like hype shoots or whatever you like to call them. And then my junior year, I got an internship with DC United. It was when Wayne Rooney was there. It was a learning experience for me, just being on my own in a place like I was unfamiliar with in Washington, D.C. And it was good to see like the difference between pro sports and collegiate sports. So I was able to kind of see that difference before I got into the real world. And then a month before the pandemic, my senior year, I got a part-time job as a video content creator with Major League Baseball. And this was like, if it happened a month later, I probably wouldn't be here sitting talking to y'all. But it kind of worked out like that. And then I was part-time for a season, 2.5 seasons, which one was like a COVID year at Major League Baseball, and then I became full-time in 2022, and I've been full-time ever since. So I basically do a mix of social content, long-form, like more YouTube-based content, help out with like brand spots, shoot a lot of games, really everything, in all honesty. So yeah, that's where we came from.
That's quite the journey there, Pete.
Yeah, long-winded.
When you're working for NCAA, you're shooting all kinds of sports. What sports did you gravitate to the most?
I think when I was at Georgia, my favorite sports to shoot were always, baseball and softball, just because I grew up playing baseball. I grew up in Indiana, but my grandfather coached basketball at the University of Georgia, so I grew up a fan of the baseball team, whatever, and I would always kind of gravitate to those sports. And then I also loved like the atmosphere of football and basketball, of course, too. So I shot a lot of that as well. But yeah, I think softball and baseball are two sports that I really like shooting in college.
Well, I was just, how does it work? Like, do they assign you to like specific games with specific sports, or do you have the ability to choose what you prefer?
If I wanted to kind of gravitate towards more sports, I would kind of curtail my class schedule to it. And like I could tell my bosses at the time if I wanted to do more of a certain thing or not. And they were pretty open to, helping us learn and grow at whatever sport we really wanted to shoot. Obviously, there's sometimes in collegiate seasons where there's sports that overlap. So like namely October, November, where football and basketballs overlap. You might have a little fall baseball and like golf, and then March is really busy because you have basketball, both basketballs, you have both baseball and softball, spring football. You have a bunch of different sports then. So like I would, on a need-based like scenario, I would kind of do other sports here and there. So yeah, it was really, they let us really do what we kind of asked for.
And asked before was, so what does that demo reel look that you sent to Major League Baseball after working all those NCAA sports?
I mean, it was really just like I made a reel, and I don't even remember. I made like 2 reels in college, one to get my internship at DC United, and then one to get the Major League Baseball one at the end of my senior year. And that one included some DC United stuff as well. There was obviously a ton of baseball because my senior year, we were really good. And my bosses were like, hey, we're just going to put you on a ton of baseball, softball, just because like, you've been doing it for so long. And so I think like I just made a reel that was all encompassing. I led off with the best football and baseball shots, and basketball too. And Anthony Edwards was there at the time. And so like it was really just kind of a mishmash of like all sports, in all honesty.
What would you say is like from your whole college experience, sports videography wise, like what's the biggest like lesson or the best like skill that you learned throughout those 4 years?
I think in college I was really able to, that was really where I developed like the technical skills of shooting. And at the time, y'all know like video production's always been around, but like integrating it into like a social perspective was kind of new, like I said, at the time in 2016. So like people were so amazed by, seeing like a shallow depth of field and whatever. And that's what we really we did like game recaps that were like cinematic or whatever. And those necessarily, it might be different now how those kind of perform and play. But like at the time, I was really able to kind of develop my technical skills of, shooting manual, lighting for kind of like a hype video board scenario. I was really able to develop that just because we had so many different sports. We did like a video board shoot for every single one. So there were different, we had like swim and dive theme shoots at the pool and like with lasers and goggles, and like then we would have, football ones with a bunch of lights, or green screens. Like I was really able to develop the technical skills that helped me get the jobs at DC United and Major League Baseball.
That's cool.
So us in pro sports, like for hockey, we get to do that only once a year. So you were doing that multiple times a year. So you're just honing your skills constantly and getting to try new stuff. Because when you're working with students, you don't have a problem telling them, all right, we got to do this again. We got to do this again, obviously, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I think you notice it even more now, but like the students are so receptive to like content. So it was easy to get them to kind of and communicate with them and get them to kind of do what we wanted to for a content perspective. And like I said, it's better now because those athletes have more understanding in medium and they've grown up with it. So they want the content even more now. I've noticed with like young baseball players too. But also like the big name guys, don't get me wrong. I remember interviewing like Kirby Smart once, and then also like Nick Chubb and guys like that. And like I would be super nervous. But like learning, that's another like technical skill, like just doing simple post-game interviews of like, I know it's off topic, but 3 questions like that. When I was 19 years old, nervous about interviewing Kirby Smart at a golf outing, like that went a long way to helping me now able to kind of communicate with players.
It's part of growing up. We were in that same position. We used to get players all the time, and you fake it till you make it. You know, you're nervous, but you got to act all calm and cool and collective. So you're filming them and asking the questions too. A lot of times after games.
Yeah, so like that was kind of a bonus. We did that because at the time we were doing, in addition, like website content for University of Georgia. So we would do a couple post-game interview questions with the coach, and that would go up on georgiadogs.com just for, people on the site who wanted to see what the coach's thoughts were. I don't know if they still do that now. That's not something I do as much in a formal basis at MLB, but like we had a shooter and we'd have someone asking the questions. Sometimes you'd have to do both, which was challenging. But that I'm really grateful that people made me do that in college, because it made me uncomfortable at the time. I remember my first ever interview that I had to do, and I was a freshman, and it was the volleyball coach. And the team had a rough couple of years, and they got swept in like straight sets in volleyball. And I had to go interview her after the game, and I was terrified because she did not look very happy. But it set me up for it made everything else easy going forward.
Yeah, no, it is. There's always those awkward interviews or awkward situations where it's not the best timing for them. You don't really know how to interact with them. But like, I'm always surprised though how professional. Well, not that I'm surprised, but yeah, like they're it's in the professional environment. Like they know what their job is, and they know that the marketing side of things and the press conference, the media, it's just part of it. So they know how to, compartmentalize all these things and just sort of focus on the moment and let go of everything else. And it's never as bad as you think it's gonna be.
Yeah,
well, you can never
part of the job.
Like this.
Yeah,
yeah,
part of
exactly.
the job.
Yeah,
Speaking of the job now, MLB. Now I have some MLB experience. I worked with the Montreal Expos back in 2002 to 2004. So when you work, like I work for the home team for broadcast. So basically we would have like 1 week where we'd work, 1 week off, because you're away on a road trip and that. So what's a typical week for you, since you don't work for a home club, you work for MLB?
Yeah, and I that's a question I get asked a lot by like my friends and stuff too. Also on Instagram and on YouTube comments, but like it really varies, to put it short. Just if the Braves are in town, and like my role has kind of morphed into more social content and whatever recently. So we're doing a bunch of different things. We're doing a college tour, college content tour this spring. So that has taken a lot of my time. But like a typical week is just, if the Braves are in town, I'll shoot a couple games. If it's a week-long homestand, 6 games or 7 games, I'll shoot, 2, 3, 4 maybe. It used to be a lot more when I was part-time, but in between I'll do the 9 to 5 stuff. So the editing for social cut downs or whatever, editing a long-form piece, really whatever we need. Helping out with the archive. We have, a ton of part-time people throughout the country, and just helping organize that footage so we can get it to where it needs to go, and labeling it properly, staying organized. It's really hard, as you know, Lance, like during a baseball season, to kind of catch your breath.
It's long, man.
Like
82 games is long. We were lucky.
Yeah.
2 years we did some games in Puerto Rico, so we had a little bit of a break. But it's a long week, man. You're exhausted come the Sunday afternoon game.
Yeah, it's working a long baseball homestand is some of the hardest like work you'll ever do. It's especially if there's some day games out there too. I know up in Montreal it's not as hot, but like here in Atlanta in July, a day game is like 98 or whatever that is in Celsius. But
40?
Yeah, something ridiculous. But yeah, I think it just varies week to week. Sometimes it's games if the team's in town. Also have to do like the meetings, the 9 to 5 stuff, the edits. But nowadays for me, like shooting a game is a bonus. If I can get out there and shoot a couple games, it's just fun for me. Try and think of new things. There's so many games throughout a season, so I try a lot of different stuff whenever the Braves are in town. In the off season, the weeks look a little different. It's a lot more just working from home, planning for the next season because the baseball off season isn't too long. Planning for that, staying organized, and then doing some like player content stuff. Players have like charity events in the off season, and we have to cover in like Puerto Rico, Bahamas, multitude of different things. So
content wise, like I'm assuming you guys must have like, I don't know, planning meetings or something like to cover the next week or next month. Cause like you said, you're doing content that's more specific to players. You got stuff that's like league wide, you've got features. So how do you guys sort of plan all this and decide, all right, we're going to do, this and that. And then, where to go from there. And, basically what your week is going to be or what your month is going to be. Like, how does that work?
I think it's about like taking in the storylines of the season. And just kind of working off that. If there's a guy, let's say like a Ellie De La Cruz for Cincinnati who's doing really well on social, we'll kind of key in on him whenever we're on the ground shooting games, and we'll plan our content accordingly. And if we want just video of a certain guy who's, creating some waves or something on social and does well on social, we'll tell all of our part-timers, just do video. And on the ground, it's just about being aware whenever you are shooting a game. I know that Ronald Acuna is the reigning MVP, and like him running the bases always does well. So if he's on first base, like I'm going to key on him. And planning, I guess it's just about staying organized. We have so many games throughout the season. It's oftentimes hard to kind of focus on the now, which is like what I just mentioned, the storylines of the game tonight, and then also, your big events. What's going on at All-Star, or what can we highlight at, let's say, like Little League Classic? What can we highlight there? It's all a consistent planning process. So we'll have meetings we'll have content meetings before big events. We'll have a weekly meeting with the whole team and whatnot. So yeah, it's a lot. It's hard to answer your question during a season.
I imagine.
Yeah.
So are you collaborating with the other teams, like videographers and that also when you're going up to games?
Yeah. So our team is the live content team at MLB. So it's about kind of helping the other clubs when we're on the road, or when a club's on the road and I'm shooting a Braves game. I know that if they don't have a content person there, I'm going to be that content person for the most part. So we're kind of whatever they need, in addition to our part-timers, of course, whatever they need, we'll communicate with them. And it's all kind of, we're all on the same team. We're trying to help the clubs out, help the league out, of course. So yeah, we do a lot of stuff communicating with other social teams, team photographers, team videographers, and whatever. Sometimes we'll share stuff and whatever.
So equipment-wise, what's your go-to? What do you shoot with? Is it all like provided by the league, or do you have your own stuff? Like, how does that work?
I do have my own stuff, but I've been using the Canon C70
Nice.
for
I've
professional
never tried it.
purposes. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite cameras I've ever used. Probably my favorite from a live content perspective for what we do. Like I said, it's about just getting the content out in real time, and it shoots to like a normal SD card, a compact one. So, and like going from an Express or something bigger is oftentimes hard to your phone. We basically have to get the clip to your mobile device and send it out to the clubs and MLB and the players. So being able to shoot that high res footage in multiple different codecs, whatever, to like a normal card like that is big for us. and it's just such high quality. The only thing I wouldn't, the thing that I would like to change about it is the 120. I wish it was shoot in real speed, because sometimes it's hard to, edit that footage really fast and get it out, because it's what it's all about, is just getting it out promptly onto our channels. And but I do like, because it's kind of a blend of a social, or like a mirrorless camera, and like a cinema. So that's what I always tell people. I've been using a lot of different cameras recently. So I have like an Insta Mini Go 3 or whatever it's called. It's like right over here. One of those little magnetic ones. I use the 360 cameras a lot, GoPros, just about getting new perspectives. That's one thing I've been trying to work on in the last year.
When you said using your phone, is it because like let's say you're shooting, you're in your position and you get a great clip, you'll just send it straight away? You won't like go into the photographer's room or whatever to go on your laptop? You'll just do it on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, it's a case-to-case basis, but for the most part, yes. Our workflow basically is, if I'm at a game, let's say the Braves, and Acuna hits a home run, I'll take the card out of my camera. I'll put it into, we basically have, with the new iPhone 15, a Lightning, or a card reader to USB-C, and we'll plug that into the phone, and it pops up on your camera roll with import, and you just pop it into your camera roll there. And then we use an app called Greenfly that we can we put it into the app. It processes for whatever 10, 15 seconds, depending how big the file is. It'll compress it a little bit, which is the downside. And then we can send it to the Braves, MLB, and MLB players. So if Ronald wants it, or his team or agency wants it, he can go get it as well. That's basically how our workflow works on the live content team. So there are times where if like I want to speed ramp something, if the clip's in 120, I will do that on my laptop really fast, or we'll have an editor on our team do that. But yeah, that's pretty much how our workflow is.
It's got to be hard though, editing and shooting at the same time. Like, you're not afraid of missing other key moments and all that, because it's pretty stressful. Like, I know you have in between innings sometimes, so at least it gives you you have 3 minutes, but that's tough, man. That's tight.
Yeah, it's tough. I always tell other, our part-timers and whatever, that you're going to miss things. I think there's so many moments in a baseball season that don't sweat it if you miss certain things here and there. It's just part of the game and part of shooting, as you all know. I'm sure you've had a ref or an ump or something block your shot, or you've been doing something else, moving spots, and something happens. So I always tell people missing stuff's part of the job.
And now, what kind of glass are you using when you're at the games? Like, first of all, where are you? Because you're moving around, obviously. Because we had this, we talked about this on another episode of where the best place to film baseball is. So I said, obviously, the dugouts, if you can get access, because you're closer to the players, you get the pitcher, you get third base, first base, shortstop. So where are you, and what kind of, first let's start, what kind of glass are you using, and where are you positioned during the games?
I use Canon. I like to use Canon. Just that's how I was taught at UGA, roll and focus and whatever. It's just easiest for me. It's what I'm familiar with. At the Braves, I'll use a 2-400 for the most part, because the photo wells are far apart, or far away from home plate. Sorry, but there are times there is a inside photo well that's very close. So I'll use a 70-200. Pre-game, I'll use a 16-35 or a 24-70. Sorry, all f2.8 for the most part. We also, on the C70, I have the EF to RF, and it's a speed booster, so it gets it to like f2 on those lenses, which is nice. Best place to shoot a game, I'd say it changes, because I've shot, and this all ties in with how content has evolved. As y'all know, and as I've said already, it's like content at that time, back in the day, in 2016, back in the day, everyone was like, holy cow, like I have never seen a shallow depth of field in my life. And now everyone's seen that look a lot. So I tend to roam around to like the outfield so you can get more defense, or I've been really trying to find new ways to shoot baseball, whether it's from up high. I would say the best place to shoot a game would probably be the photo wells for the most part. But up until like a year or two ago, I think roaming around is a big part of things now, as you've seen with pages like the Celtics and stuff. You've seen what people can do from, so far away. That's one of the most viral pieces of content I've ever seen a team do, where people have been really commenting on the editing. So I think finding it changes. So I guess roaming now maybe be a better spot to try new things.
For MLB, are you guys thinking about doing a shot like that, where you're doing a wide shot, you're going to mask players in and out in that, or is it's just too big of a space, a baseball field to do that?
I think it's certainly possible. I've thought about it. The problem now, I think, is that edit went so viral that everyone's just going to be like, you're copying them. That is what would hold me back from doing it. The other challenge is the lighting too. Unless you're in a dome, which I am not, you have to get all those shots at night, I presume, or during a day game, which, you need like no clouds and whatever. It's a little more complicated to do. Yeah, it's a little more complicated to do outdoors.
Yeah. So come to Toronto. We'll help you out. We're only 6 hours away. They're in a dome, so we'll come meet you. We'll come help you with that shot.
Dude, I've wanted to shoot in Toronto for so long. I've wanted to shoot there for so long. It just looks like a great atmosphere, especially in the playoffs. So.
And it's all redone too, right? They redid the whole stadium last year, so
looks beautiful.
But they're redoing the Montreal, the Olympic Stadium apparently. So not too sure why, but yeah, keep doing it. Isn't it like a thing where just like because snow eventually just fucks up the roof or whatever?
That's it. They just keep replacing the roof.
They have to spend like 40 mil to replace it. No one uses the building.
No one uses it.
Not really. I think there's like conferences and stuff, but that's about it.
MLS
there's like
beside it.
Yeah, that's right. They've got their own. Yeah, they got their own stadium now.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just way too big. It's just like there's just no soul in that building. It's just it's too big. Like there's whether it's baseball, like football tried to play there when they started in the CFL team, and like every new team like tried, but it's way too big. It doesn't make sense. So. They play a season there and then they leave, and yeah, there's not much. I think there's maybe one concert a year, like maybe like a Madonna will go there because it's a big size, and then there'll be like conferences and there'll be exhibition games. I know like the Blue Jays usually play a couple of games there. That's about it, I think.
Pete, when I worked for MLB, our big thing was to try and get our highlights on This Week in Baseball. So every now and then they would show some expo games, but it was really tough because we didn't have a broadcast contract. So we would help out the other team. So like if San Diego came to us, they would use the indoor, like our feed, the home feed sometimes instead of setting their own cameraman. And people don't realize too that during baseball games, nothing's on the board but a still headshot because you can't have movement on the scoreboard, right? So you're filming the game and you're not seeing any of your shots. You're seeing it in your little return, but you're seeing it on TV if you're in San Diego, but you're not seeing it in Montreal. Montreal, there was only a radio broadcast at the time. That's what kind of killed us.
Oh, so no one broadcasted the games to like a local?
No.
Wow.
Well, there was.
I didn't know that.
Games. Not all of them.
Well, like if they were a national game, maybe.
Yeah, but not really. Not Montreal.
TSN and RDS, didn't they show any games?
There was no TV contract at the end. That's why that's why we left.
Can you get Jays games wherever in Canada, anywhere?
Yeah, because it's the only team now, so you can get them on Sportsnet.
Okay.
Do you have like a favorite, like your most sort of memorable moment, whether it's an MLB or MLS or whatever, like one moment that you felt like, I'm so happy to have this job and this is crazy that I'm here, sort of thing?
I think that happens regularly. Just like when I'm at an event or like a World Series or something, you're just like, wow, I can't believe I'm actually here. But if one sticks out, I think it'd probably be when the Braves won the World Series. Being there and then on the parade, at the parade was incredible. I didn't really grow up like a Braves fan, but all my friends are Braves fans, and just seeing them so happy in the city, like I never really thought we had won anything, in all honesty. So it was just cool to see that, I'd say. Yeah. Because
you go to every World Series, don't you?
I've been to the last 4, yeah.
Like, what's that like? What adds to the, like, I guess, like, from obviously the atmosphere is crazy, but like for you guys, like, is it like more, is there more work, and there's more pressure, obviously? Like, what's it like?
There's a lot of work. We have attached to the World Series is like a bunch of other things. We'll have like influencers and former players or things like that come in. So we'll have different responsibilities. Some people shoot a game for a couple innings, then go do other stuff, or vice versa. Or some people the whole game they'll spend doing stuff with influencers or whatnot. So it's really, I think it is, especially by World Series time, that when that comes around, it's like 3 weeks into the playoffs, and we operate differently than the NBA. So we don't have like a day off in between home games. So it's, you fly, you got 3 games in a row, then you fly to the next city. It's really hard. And by the World Series, I think that is ultimately the toughest thing to battle, is just the fatigue. But it's amazing, like being there and the atmosphere. So it's really hard to complain about it. It's like just one of those things that comes with the job.
And now what's an all-star game like where you have all the teams there? Are all the videographers from all the teams there, or are you supplying all these teams content?
Yeah, it's all-star is awesome. It's a lot of work too, kind of similar to the World Series. There's a lot of other teams there. Most teams send their own content people, but it's hard because there's just, as y'all know, these fields aren't built to hold 50 photographers sometimes. No facility really is, unless it's a football field or something where you got a lot of space. So it's hard. Yeah, it's a collaborative effort with other teams and other social teams and our social teams. It's all about just kind of maintaining good relationships with everyone and understanding that we're all here to help each other ultimately. So
are they always coming to you guys when they miss stuff though? Since you guys are MLB, they're like, "Hey Pete, man, I missed a shot. Do you have it? You have my back on this one?" Or how does it work?
I mean, not always, because personally, like, I'll miss things too. So, but it's I think it's a case-to-case basis. Some clubs will communicate with us a lot more, and some clubs kind of do their own thing. So
what would you say, like, well, a bit similar to what I asked about college, like what did you learn and stuff like that, like through so far in MLB, like what did you learn throughout your few years there that you didn't know before? And also, like, where do you go for especially from a creative perspective, like when you want to, I don't know, find new ideas and do different style videos, like where do you go for inspiration?
A lot of my inspiration in the past has come from music videos and stuff. I think there's a lot of visuals there, maybe not necessarily on the storytelling side, but there's a lot of visuals there that I've been inspired from, like an A$AP Rocky and guys and musicians who've really tried to kind of push the bar like that.
Yeah.
That's been off the top of my head. And then obviously like other creators too.
I just find like music videos and sports hype reel are very similar. Like it's the same type of energy. And so like you, I like music. I like to just go through YouTube and watch music videos and stuff just for inspiration. I think it's a great place to, especially like for visual effects type things.
I do like that analogy, just like the parallel between the two, because they don't necessarily always have to have a story. I think there's like an old video that really inspired me for a while. It was like a potato salad A$AP Rocky, Tyler the Creator video. And I think just from a visual perspective and editing, there's a lot of things that music videos do to push the bar.
Do you ever have players reach out to you and ask you to create them hype reels and stuff, like rookies that are new in the league and stuff like that?
Like that's part of, so we have a way of that happening. Basically, part of our jobs is to kind of provide content for players. We want to ultimately help our players get what they need and whatever to put themselves out on social their best way. So if a player, it doesn't really happen directly to me, almost never does. We'll have kind of teams and their team, our team, whatever, and kind of work together and see what they need. And we help them however we need.
Question which you probably get a lot in your DMs, like what advice would you give like a young sports videographer who's trying to get into MLB and is reaching out to you and saying like, what should I do? How can I get in? What should I work on? Like what would be your advice?
I would say, and this is like going to sound like a pretty common answer, just make sure you have something to show people. So go out and shoot as much as you can. It might be for free. You might have to DM people, DM athletes to get in the door, shooting a minor league game or a local youth game, your local college team. You have to find a way to get in the door. You can't just show up with nothing and apply to a job. Say you love baseball or something. You have to have something to show people, and that could be going to shoot. Doesn't even have to be baseball. You could be going to the local college shooting basketball with your iPhone. So I think you just have to make a reel, edit as much as you can, shoot as much as you can, and go from there.
Do you have any anecdotes of what it was like when you got your foot in the door, your first MLB game?
My first MLB game, I mean, I was like still in school, so it was spring training 2020. It was 3 weeks before the world shut down, and I remember I showed up in Arizona, and I was like, I went to the airport after class, and then I had the weekend in Arizona, and then I had to go back to class on Tuesday, and I couldn't believe that I was there. Like Mike Trout hit a home run or something, I can't remember, because it was an Angels game, the first game I ever shot. So yeah, I think that was all I remember from the first one, because so much happened. Like 3 weeks later, it was like I don't really remember what happened before that when I worked at MLB. Yeah.
And what would you say? Let's say like a kid reaches out to you and said, "Look, I've got my first baseball game. Like I'm shooting my first baseball game ever, a high school game, like whatever. Like, do you have any advice, like in terms of filming or editing? Like, what would be your sort of advice that you would give someone who's just knows like how to use a camera, but just never shot baseball before and just doesn't know where to be and what to do?"
Keep it simple. I'd say if you're just shooting one baseball game, keep it really simple. So shoot from close to the dugout, see what type of access you can get. Don't, push your limits to piss people off. But I think if you're just shooting one, shoot from the field, keep it simple, make a recap from that game just to get yourself like working on the edit and working with baseball footage. Don't follow the ball if you've shot other sports.
That's going to be my next question.
Yeah, don't try to follow the ball at first. Like I said, keep it simple. There are some instances where I will try to follow the ball, but if you're shooting multiple games, I'd have come out with a different perspective. If you're shooting a weekend full of youth baseball, mix it up a little bit. Go try and shoot from the outfield, shoot down the line. Maybe see if you can get some players like talking to you or whatever. It's easy to do that now. Make a recap from each game. Try different things. But if you're just shooting one, just don't follow the ball. Keep it simple.
So shooting a bit wider, basically, and let the action sort of move around in that frame.
Yeah.
And why not follow the ball? Because most people can't follow the ball, or it's more because you want to catch the person's reaction? Is that the idea?
I think it's just because if you're new to shooting baseball, it's going to be very hard to follow the ball, especially if it's a new shooter, they're not going to be on like some sort of shoulder rig or anything. So it's going to be hard, virtually impossible to follow a baseball or a softball in that instance. The only time I really follow the ball is if it's like I'm tracking a pitch really fast, which that in itself is very hard to do, even at my level now. And then also maybe during double plays, that's the only time I track the ball. But you also, like you said, if you don't track the ball, then you do get more of the reaction of maybe the batter or something.
The advantage with baseball, though, which is similar with basketball, only with shooting, is that you know where the ball is going. Like, on the double play, for example, you know exactly what's going to happen, especially at the professional level where they do it, with that speed. So once you're someone like you who's used to it, you've got, I'm assuming it's almost muscle memory at this point. But for a young, and that's why I guess it's important to understand the sports that you're filming. Like if you get the sport, if you know what plays are going to happen, especially in a sport like baseball where it's very precise. You know where the ball is going, you know where it's going to end and stuff. So you can even maybe zoom in as you're going towards the first baseman, because that's the end of the play or something like that. Like that's what's like basketball is a bit of the same way, where I'll stay wide as they're passing the ball around, but when they're shooting, I know exactly where the ball is going, so it's easier to sort of have it well framed and maybe zoom in on it to give a bit more intensity, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I think once you shoot baseball enough, you'll understand where certain guys will hit the ball. If certain guys will pull the ball to the left side of the field, you'll kind of, if you want to get a defensive play, you'll key in on those guys on the left side of the field. One thing that people really do tend to like is if you shoot vertical or really wide horizontal, and get that kind of launch angle of the ball, and they can see the batter and ball in frame. That's something that always does really well on social.
So you're reading guys' scouting reports? Is that what you're doing to figure out where they're hitting and checking out?
Advanced sabermetrics. I know all of them. I had a friend. He worked for the Raiders, and he used to watch film, basically, and he would, based off which formation, he felt like he could do his job as a photographer better by knowing the tendencies of that formation and play and whatever. So he would literally watch film.
Jeez, that's dedication.
Yeah. Yeah.
How hard is it filming baseball vertically?
Very hard. As with any sport, I feel. I don't do it that often. I'll do it, 3 or 4 times a game, depending on what I'm going for. Sometimes I'll get a shot first horizontally if it's a strikeout from a pitcher, and then I'll get another one vertically. So it's really hard, and I don't think the shelf life drastically gets shrunk whenever you shoot vertically. But it does work sometimes. If I am trying to get like a launch angle, it's a lot easier to get that frame whenever I'm shooting vertical, if that makes sense. So
what's cool about the next sort of generation of cameras that's coming out, they all seem to be going in the 8K sort of direction. Then hopefully we won't have to worry about it anymore.
We've had that for forever. Come on, man. We've had that 8K.
Yeah, well, what? But it's sensors 8K, but then
yeah.
The image isn't.
Yeah.
It's getting ridiculous, and we're just now getting 4K TVs in our houses. It's like, why do we need to go? Why do we need to go to 8K cameras now?
That's a whole other debate where I feel like people are always complaining about people want to go in those directions, but then complain about things like overheating and things like that. I'm like, well, dude,
of course, yeah,
it's big. Like,
I've noticed now that, and I don't know, y'all might feel the same way, but whenever I look at 4K now, I don't see, like, when I first started looking at it, I was like, holy cow, this is like super detailed 4 or 5 years ago. And now when I look at it, I'm like, it's like my eyes are used to it now, and I'm sure photographers are the same way with the A7 IV or R4 with 62 megapixels. But if you looked at the A7 III 5-6 years ago, whenever it came out, the 24 megapixels probably looked pretty good. It's strange how that evolves, and your eyes get used to it.
Yeah,
we're getting spoiled. We're getting spoiled with all this technology. Like even Insta360 is now 8K.
I know. Yeah, I want to use that thing.
Well, especially that now we're all watching it on our phones anyway, so it doesn't make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
No.
But speaking of social media, like your YouTube channel, you started this a while back. That's how we met, like I said at the beginning. So what was your motivation behind that? Like what motivated you to start a YouTube channel that's not exclusively, but mainly about sports videography? And where are you going with it? Like, what's your ultimate goal with the channel?
I've really been slacking on it recently, just because I've been so busy with work. I think I started it way back in the day just to. It started kind of with when I got my camera, I just wanted to kind of document my life and what I did with my friends and the stupid stuff we did, and it kind of evolved from there. I realized that people were very interested in this sports video that I did, and learning about it and learning how I got to where I was. So I really started to kind of key in on that once I got out of college. I keyed in on the sports video, and it's really I didn't realize how many people were interested in it. But people would, if I can impact one life or help someone, he or she, get a job or encourage them to follow something they want to do, I think just doing that once is like very empowering. So being able to do that a couple times over would mean even more. And I think that's kind of why I started to key in on making content specifically around sports video. Like I said, I need to get back into it. And to be quite frank, I'm slacking on it, making like 2 videos a month. But it's been really...
You and me both.
Dude, yeah, it's been so hard.
Because I think like your channel, like what I really like about it is I like, for example, mine is very like informational. Like my thing is like I want, it becomes almost like a library of like, if you want to be able to learn about this camera or this effect or this or that, where yours is like, I'm sure I've told you this before, like, but I really like your storytelling. Like it's a much more sort of, it's a story, like it's fun. There's a beginning, like we're going throughout your day and it just seems like effortless. Like you're just turning on the camera and you're just talking and you're doing your thing. And it's just like, yeah, it's such an easy watch. And so yeah, no, I really enjoy it personally.
No, I appreciate it. And likewise, like enjoying your content. You like, I think there's been so many people that have asked me or been like, I've watched you and Beyond the Game TV's like videos, and that's how I've like learned and like applied to jobs. And I think that's something that goes a long way, and it always helps me remember why I started doing it and why I got into content in itself. And I've always tried to make, this is what I forgot before, I've always tried to make videos for someone 3 years younger than me who they would enjoy. So I'm about to turn 26. What would a 23-year-old me like? What would he want to learn? Who would he want to watch on YouTube or on the internet? So I've really kind of, as my career's progressed, it's always been about teaching that kid 3 years ago and entertaining that kid 3 years ago.
Pete, when you're at MLB games, are you sometimes thinking about your YouTube channel and trying to set up upcoming themes in that for your YouTube channel? Or is it just, I'm filming the Atlantic game, that's what I'm doing, maybe I'll talk about something on my YouTube channel after? Or are you going in there saying like, oh, maybe I could do both tonight? Or is it's just too crazy of a day to do that?
Most times, yeah, it is too crazy. And like, I don't often like when those two things overlap, but I will do certain teaching moments in certain scenarios. If I'm in a new place, how to attack it. If there's a TV in the camera well and I can't shoot that game, then I'll move to somewhere else. Like sometimes I'll use those game experiences, and I've done so many over the years now that I kind of strayed away from doing them. But I think just using how I think in certain scenarios on the field or in the concourse, whatever, to kind of teach, that's where I am kind of overlapping the two.
Well, we won't hold you much longer because we know you're a busy man. But thank you so much for being on the channel and for doing your YouTube thing. Because I feel like you know this, like probably 6 years ago or something. Like there wasn't any. I know when I started doing like YouTube content about sports videography, I sort of had that idea, and then I Googled. Well, I went on YouTube and searched sports videography. And there was literally 2 videos, and it was just 2 guys who do just regular, normal videography channels that did 1 video each about sports, or something sports related. So now it's cool to see that, there's us, there's Peter, there's Juan, there's all these people, there's a podcast on Instagram, there's all these different things, and it's just becoming this big sort of community. And that's how, kids, like you said, because people want to. Because so many people were so excited when we started doing these things, because it's like, finally, it's something more specific to what I'm doing, because everything before that was more about vlogging, about cinematography, like in very sort of, how to do like a short story or something. And so to have more of that run and gun sports sort of scenario that they can really relate, and that sort of talks exactly to what they're doing. That I think that connected with a lot of people, especially a younger generation, since sports videography was sort of a new thing that was evolving a lot and still is really. So yeah, it's good to have people like you on board.
It's been amazing Thank y'all for having me. This has been awesome to just talk about it. I haven't sat down and talk about sports videography formally in a while. In all honesty, it just been going a million miles an hour, so it's been really nice to kind of sit down with you.
Well, anytime you want to come back on, we can talk again. Because this is what E and I we chat for about half hour before on every show anyway about random things that go on, and then sometimes we use up all our good material before we even press record. So anytime you want to come back on and shoot the shit, we're here, Pete.
Of course, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. See you, man.
All right. Take care.